When I was a young man, my father used to say something that stayed with me for the rest of my life. He'd say, "Son, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always." Those words, simple as they sound, became the compass of my life. And tonight, I want to talk to you about something that every one of us faces at some point: mistakes. We all make them. Every one of us. Whether you wear a robe, a uniform, a suit, or simple work clothes, we all stumble. We all fall short. But what truly matters is not the fall itself. It's what you decide to do after you fall. I have sat on the bench for many years. I have seen thousands of people come before me, young and old, rich and poor, hopeful and hopeless. They come in carrying shame, fear, or anger. Many of them think their mistakes have already written the last chapter of their story. But I've learned something profound: mistakes are not the end of the story, they are the beginning of understanding. A mistake can be a teacher, if only you have the courage to learn from it. Part 2: The Young Man in the Courtroom. I remember one young man who came before me, nervous, his hands shaking. He was charged with speeding. Now, a speeding ticket might not sound like much, but to him, it was more than a fine. It was a symbol of everything going wrong in his life. He stood before me, eyes low. I asked, "Where were you rushing, son?" He said, "Your Honor, I was on my way to a job interview. I'd been unemployed for months, and this was my chance. I left early, but traffic was bad. I panicked, and I sped." Now, by the letter of the law, he was guilty. The ticket was clear. But in that moment, I didn't see a criminal. I saw a young man trying to rebuild his life. So, I asked him a question: "What kind of job were you applying for?" He said, "Anything, sir. I just want to work. I want to help my mom." And right then, I realized sometimes justice is not about punishment. It's about perspective. I dismissed the fine, and I told him, "Son, this courtroom is not a place of shame. It's a place of new beginnings. Go get that job, and make me proud." A few months later, I received a letter. It was from him. He got the job. He said, "Judge, thank you for seeing me as a person, not a mistake." That's when it hit me: we can change a life just by changing how we see someone. Part 3: The Weight of Guilt. Many of us carry guilt like a heavy stone in our pocket. We wake up with it. We go to bed with it. It whispers in our ear, "You're not good enough. You failed. You disappointed everyone." But I tell you tonight, guilt is not a life sentence, it's a signal. It's your soul telling you, "This is not who I am. I can do better." And if you listen closely, that voice of guilt can become a voice of growth. Because those who never feel guilt never change. But those who face it with honesty, they rise higher than before. Mistakes, when faced with courage, can become the foundation of wisdom. Part 4: A Story of a Mother. I'll never forget the day a woman came to my court. She was a mother of 3, living paycheck to paycheck. She had several parking tickets she couldn't pay. When I asked her why, she said softly, "Judge, I had to choose between paying the ticket and feeding my kids." Her voice trembled as she spoke. And I looked at her and thought, what kind of world punishes a mother for trying to keep her children alive? So, I forgave her fines. But more than that, I told her, "Ma'am, you're not standing in front of me as a failure. You're standing here as a mother who loves fiercely. That's not a crime, that's courage." And I saw tears fall from her eyes, not out of sadness, but relief. Because someone finally told her what she needed to hear. You are more than your mistakes. Part 5: The Mirror Test. You know, life will always put a mirror in front of you. Sometimes you'll like what you see. Sometimes you won't. But the real question is not whether you made a mistake, it's whether you have the strength to face that reflection, forgive yourself, and begin again. If you can look in that mirror and say, "I have learned, I will do better," then you've already won the hardest battle of all, the battle against self-condemnation. Part 6: Society's Harsh Judgments. We live in a world quick to judge and slow to understand. A world that measures people by their worst moments instead of their best efforts. But justice, real justice, must be different. It must recognize that behind every mistake is a human being who still has worth. When I sit in my courtroom, I don't see defendants. I see fathers trying to feed families, mothers holding two jobs, students struggling to find their way. I see people, not problems. And maybe that's the message our society needs most. To be just is to be human. To be human is to forgive. Part 7: What redemption really means. Redemption doesn't come from erasing the past, it comes from transforming it. You can't undo what you did, but you can decide what kind of person you'll be because of it. The person who lies and learns to tell the truth, that's redemption. The person who fails and learns to persevere, that's redemption. The person who hurts someone and then devotes their life to healing, that's redemption. Your mistakes are not the chains that hold you down. They are the chisels that shape your soul. Part 8: Lessons from my father. When I was a boy, my father was a milkman. He didn't have much money, but he was rich in integrity. He used to say, "Son, the easiest thing in life is to judge someone. The hardest thing is to understand them." I didn't fully understand those words until I became a judge myself. Because every time someone stood before me, I had a choice to judge them by their action, or to understand their circumstance. And every time I chose understanding, I saw change, not only in them, but in me. So, if you take one lesson home tonight, let it be this: understanding heals where punishment cannot. Part 9: The power of second chances. Let me tell you another story. A man came before me, mid-40s, with a long list of traffic violations. He had lost his job, his family had left him, and he looked like life had defeated him. When I asked him what happened, he said, "Judge, I stopped caring. I made one bad decision, and then another, and before I knew it, my whole life was a mess." So, I said to him, "If you stopped caring, why are you here today?" He looked at me and whispered, "Because I want to care again." I waived most of his fines and told him, "This is your second chance. Don't waste it." Months later, he sent me a photo, him with his daughter, smiling. He had found a job and rebuilt his family. That's the power of mercy. That's the miracle of a second chance. Part 10: The hardest person to forgive. I've learned something after all these years: the hardest person to forgive is yourself. We carry the weight of our own disappointment far longer than others do. We replay our mistakes over and over in our minds, as if punishing ourselves could somehow undo the past. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, begins within. You can't move forward while staring in the rearview mirror. You have to look ahead. So tonight, I say this to you: let go of what you did. Hold on to who you can become. Part 11: The ripple effect of compassion. When you show compassion to one person, it doesn't end with them. It ripples outward. That young man who got the job? He now volunteers at a community center, helping teenagers avoid trouble. That mother I forgave? She now feeds hungry children in her neighborhood. One act of mercy multiplies. One moment of understanding plants a seed that grows far beyond what you can see. We often underestimate the power of simple goodness, but it's the most transformative force in the world. Part 12: What I've learned from the bench. After decades of serving justice, here's what I've learned. The law teaches us how to punish. But humanity teaches us how to heal. The law can fine you. But kindness can free you. The law can make you afraid. But compassion can make you better. And if we can blend both justice and mercy, then we can truly call ourselves civilized. Part 13: A message to the young. To every young person listening. You will make mistakes. You will fail. You will disappoint others and yourself. But that's not the end. It's the beginning. When life knocks you down, don't hide from it. Learn. Grow. Rise again. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs honest people, people who fall but stand again with humility. Don't let one bad chapter convince you that your book is finished. Part 14: A promise to keep. I've always believed that every person has a spark of goodness inside. Sometimes it's buried under pain, regret, or fear. But it's there. And my job, whether in the courtroom or in life, is to help people see that spark again. Because once they do, once they believe they can change, the rest follows naturally. So I make this promise, not just as a judge, but as a fellow human being. I will never define anyone by their worst day. Because none of us would want to be judged that way. Part 15, Closing Words. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember nothing else from tonight, remember this. You are not your mistake. You are the lesson you learned from it. You are the strength it gave you. You are the kindness you show others after being shown mercy yourself. When you forgive yourself, you open the door for others to do the same. So walk through life with humility. Speak with compassion. Lead with love. And when you see someone fall, don't kick them down. Reach out your hand and say, your story isn't over yet. Because as long as you have breath in your lungs and goodness in your heart, you can always begin again.